Superintendent Paul Norton, thanks so much for your time this morning. I know it's a busy time, so we appreciate you squeezing us in. I know so many districts across Texas are considering or instituting bans on cell phones, and that's where I want to get the conversation started with you this morning. What is Lake Travis doing and why?
Yes, we started a couple of years ago just dealing with the issue of cell phones like everybody else has been, just the distraction it creates in the classroom, not only instructionally, but also socially for kids, as well as just the bullying, cyberbullying aspect. Kids having their cell phones, just their maturity levels. And so we started a couple of years ago looking at what we can do to impact that in a positive way. So our SHAC committee this past year met, had lots of discussion about it. And they brought a recommendation to our school board in June to ban cell phones basically from pre-K through 8th grade. Kids can have the cell phones on them. They have to be turned off and put away in their backpack, their purse, whatever it may be, but they're not allowed to have their cell phone out during the school day. That starts from the time they walk in the building in the morning until the last bell at the end of the day. And so we know with our middle school kids, a lot of them have after school activities. They may need to contact parents after school. So having the phone on them is perfectly okay because they may need to contact parents after school, but during the school day, they'll be strictly prohibited from having those out and using them during the school day.
How much of this is about discipline, students paying attention, but also about the mental health crisis that's facing a lot of teenagers, and screen time is no doubt associated with that?
Screen time is a big topic, and just kids not engaging socially with their peers, with their teachers, the way that we did when we were in school. And so that is a big aspect of this. When you walk into a middle school cafeteria, you'll see a lot of kids on their cell phones sitting across from each other, much like when you walk into a restaurant, you'll see a family of 4 and they're all on their cell phones. We need to be engaging. We need to be talking. We need to teach our kids that from an early age. And so that's a big positive impact. The mental health of our kids being away from the screens and interacting with their peers will be a huge positive for our students. I think it'll be a huge positive for our staff too, because they'll be able to have more engaging and positive interaction with our students because they won't be listening to their phone. They won't have their earbuds in. They'll actually be engaged in the classroom.
What about during a time of an emergency?
So during an emergency, it's just like it's always been in schools. If there were to be emergency during the school day, we would notify parents. We have our own police department. They would deal with the emergency immediately when it happens. We have a standard protocol that we follow if there were to be an emergency on one of our campuses. And one of the first things that we do is we notify our families of there's a lockdown on campus, there's an emergency on campus, and they can communicate that way. The last thing that we want during an emergency is more people and more parents coming to our campus, because that just causes something else for us to have to deal with. Completely understand the urge to be there. As a parent myself, I understand if there was an emergency, I would want to be there for my child. But if there were to be an emergency, we'd communicate often with our families of what's going on, what we can share with them, and make them aware of the situation. And once the situation's over with, then obviously they'll be able to get their child.
I think you said this ban applies to elementary and middle school. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you consider expanding it to the high schools?
We're looking at what we're going to do with the high school. We have a policy in place now to where kids can have their cell phones out with teachers' permission. And teachers can also tell their students to put their cell phones away. And so we kind of quasi have that at the high school right now. We want to focus on elementary and middle school this year, see how this implements, see how it goes, and then look at considerations for next year for our high school.
Let's talk a little bit about budget, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How big of a budget deficit did Lake Travis ISD face coming into this school year?
So our board will hopefully approve our budget in a couple of weeks, and we'll have about a $4 million deficit budget coming in to this school year. It's very frustrating knowing that there's the $4 billion sitting that's been approved by the state legislature that has not been released to public schools. And so we are dealing with the deficit. When you look at, we have not received an increase in the basic allotment since 2019. Since that time, there have been lots of unfunded or partially unfunded mandates that have come forward. We talked about safety just a moment ago. We were all required. We had a police department. We started our police department back in 2021, I believe. So before the House bill came out that required that, we already had a police department in place, but we didn't have an officer at every campus. And so just that mandate alone, even though we did get minimal funding from the state of Texas for it, it still cost us about $400,000 to $500,000 a year to fully force a police department that is a quote unquote unfunded or underfunded mandate from the state. So not only has the basic allotment not changed since 2019. In that time, we've had over a 20% increase in inflation. We've also had additional unfunded mandates to come along with it, which just eats away at what we're able to provide our students in the classroom.
So did you have to make cuts this year?
We did. We eliminated some positions. A lot of them were vacancies that we weren't able to fill. We had to look at different programs. We did give a 1% pay increase for our staff because we want to continue to have a good pay scale for our staff, but we're just going to use fund balance this year. This will be the second year in a row that we've had to use fund balance to get through a school year. And so unfortunately, that's just the situation we're in. We're hoping this next legislative session that we'll get some relief from our legislators.
I know that a superintendent is not an elected position, but clearly you have to navigate political waters in the position that you're in. Are you beginning to prepare for a world in Texas where school vouchers are the law of the land?
Sure, you can see that's coming, and it's going to look different in different parts of the state. And so here in Lake Travis, it'll look different than it does in other parts. And so we have some private schools, some charter schools that are in our area. And so we'll continue to navigate that. Our challenge, the competition isn't a problem. I don't think anybody worries about the competition. It's the equity in how the game is played, for lack of a better term. If we're going to have vouchers, that's great, but they should have the same accountability, both academically and financially, that we do as a school district. It's public money going to an institution. It should have the same public accountability that any other public school has. So they should take the same test. They should have the same financial accountability as we do. It just needs to be, if we're taking our tax dollars and putting them somewhere, there should be lots of accountability to go along with that.
Superintendent Paul Norton, thanks so much for your time. Good luck with the upcoming school year.
Thank you, Teresa.